Hello, I am Dr. Angie Beltsos from Chicago, and thank you for taking time to come to our session. I thought what would be helpful is if we take a moment and just go over things briefly about how things work normally, and then maybe take some time for Q&A. At VIOS, we celebrate life. VIOS is the Greek word for life, but it means the meaning of life, the purpose. And today, we're hoping for the purpose of a new part of your life, and that's fatherhood. It's very important to us that you have the best of care and high success rates with an unparalleled patient experience, bringing also novel ideas and science to your care. It's very important that people stay cutting edge, and that's something that is very important to us in Chicago. We have a few doctors. It's Dr. Jelani and myself that will be helping to take care of you. We also have a urologist whose main job is reproductive male health, and he will be part of your care. To make a baby, we need fast-swimming sperm, we need a healthy egg, and a strong uterus. The sperm test, if anyone has done one, is a test where there is 3 days, not more than 5 days from the last time you ejaculated, and then you would provide a sperm sample into a cup. The sperm is tested basically for 3 things. Number 1 is how many sperm there are. We would like that to be at least 15 to 20 million sperm. We would like to see the sperm swimming fast, and the shape of sperm is the sperm on the far left. If the sperm is misshapen, that can affect the health of the embryos that you make. So there are certainly some other things, next slide, that we want to do. People ask, what should I do or what can I do when I'm giving the sample of sperm that's going to make my baby, right? So what are things? Let's say that, for example, you're going to come to Chicago in February to give your sperm sample. For the next 3 months, some very easy things to be mindful are. Number 1, there's a vitamin called CoQ10. This helps the health of the sperm that you will give because the CoQ10 is the energy source that helps DNA be strong. And remember that you give half of your DNA to make your baby. And there are things that can affect the sperm that you gave and create outcomes. Number 2 is lifestyle. People say, is it okay that I have coffee? Or how much coffee should I drink? Can I drink alcohol? Those are fine in moderation. If you smoke, it's best to limit your smoking as much as possible, and also antioxidants. Another question is marijuana use. Some people use marijuana. That also can strongly affect the sperm DNA. And finally is sleep. There's been some fascinating research lately looking at how much sleep a man gets can affect the embryos you create. So they say 6 to 8 hours of good rest is very important in those couple months before you plan to give your sperm sample. And it can change the quality of the sperm that's produced. So if you like to watch the TV late and wake up early in the morning and checking emails, it's best to give yourself a little bit more time for rest. Next slide. When you pick your donor, there are certain medical things that you're going to look at and that I look at because I will be your donor's doctor and I will help you navigate the best donor for you based on your genetics and based on some of the things you bring to the table. Another thing, of course, is picking the donor that you wish. So you might be interested in eggs, an egg donor of a certain height, weight, ethnic background. There's a lot of opportunity now to use fresh eggs or frozen. So both have similar success rates in giving you a baby. If you plan to do PGT, which is that DNA fingerprint of the baby embryo, you may be better off using a fresh egg donor. Frozen eggs are a bit more delicate, and to put them through that PGT testing may be a lot. Number 2, you will not get as many eggs in the frozen set as you will usually in fresh. Next slide. So how do we know if she's a good donor? One of the most sexy tests, if you will, of an egg donor is her blood test is AMH. And AMH will tell you how many eggs she's going to give you. Is she going to give you a medium amount of eggs or a lot? So let's pretend you found 2 donors that you really like, and one has an AMH of 5 and the other has an AMH of 2. The one with AMH of 5, the higher one, will give you typically more eggs, especially if you and your partner or your husband both want to have eggs. This becomes an important question for you. Next slide. At VIOS, we do have our own egg donation program, which is called VIOS, and we are happy to let you see the profiles for the eggs, fresh or frozen. And also, it becomes seamless. If you found a donor already in an agency that you would like to use, that's equally fine. It is seamless on our part for you to have the best donor for you, but we'll make sure they're medically cleared and a good match. Next, we go to the surrogate. We want, again, the womb to be clean, and there's a special ultrasound we do to look at the uterus. And this is a saline. Next slide. When we select our surrogate, we want to make sure that she meets medical criteria and also at least has had 1 child. There are also some other things to consider that you'll be hearing a lot about, and making sure she's a good personal match for you and your family that you're building. When you do IVF, people say, well, how long does it take for the egg collection? So that's about 1 month. The egg donor will take medicine for 2 weeks, and then we'll draw the eggs out, create the baby embryos, and freeze them to keep them safe. That's 1 month. The next month will be when you found your surrogate. That also takes about 1 month. The surrogate will take medicine typically for about 3 weeks, and then we'll take 1 embryo or 2 and put them in the uterus. So each of those is 1 month each. When you look at the baby embryo in the dish, it grows for about a week. And once the baby embryo is ready, which is called a blastocyst, that's the stage where you can decide if you want to do PGT. And again, that looks to see if the baby embryo got half of your DNA and half from the egg donor. This accuracy of this test is about 90 to 95% accurate. Why do PGT? If I may be brief, it will make it more likely that I picked a good embryo to put in. So how do you know? Well, we look at it, but sometimes you can't see with your eye if it's healthy. So it gives you a deeper understanding. When you do PGT, there is less risk of miscarriage. So that is also important. When you think about our surrogate, you probably will make an agreement that the surrogate will do 3 to 4 tries of a transfer. After that, if, God forbid, she miscarries or it doesn't work, she has the liberty to walk away. So we want to make it as likely as possible that the first cycle will work, and PGTA can be very helpful to make it more likely that the first try will result in a baby. However, nature is doing PGT also. So when you put an embryo in and something's wrong, well, it typically doesn't work. The embryo won't implant, or if something's wrong, God forbid, it usually will miscarry. So nature is also there doing this evaluation. We have to decide also how many embryos to transfer. Usually, we transfer 1 healthy embryo. You can put 2, but no more than 2 embryos. Next slide. In regards to packages, Caitlin is available to also discuss what this can look like and explain how the package pricing works. In brief, the first package is 1 retrieval of our donor and 1 transfer into our surrogate, and hopefully 1 and done. The second, probably more popular package is that let's say that we pick this donor and we have 5 embryos from you and 5 from your husband, and we can use all those embryos until we get to a baby, and that's covered, so unlimited transfers. The third is, what if we have a donor who only gave us 2 normal embryos for you and 2 for him, and they didn't work? So now we need to do another retrieval or make more embryos. The third package allows unlimited retrievals, unlimited transfers. And we do think that being able to guarantee this, even if you go to clinics that you don't use the package, be mindful that the people that can offer this have very excellent success rates, because they wouldn't do it if it didn't work. So I think one couple said to me, I just want to know you offer guarantee programs. We don't need it, we don't want it, but I just want to know that you stand by your work, which I think is very interesting. Next slide. So we hope that you will soon be successful, and coming to an event like this to be an inspiration to your other people around us. And next slide. And so I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was wondering if people in Europe might get tests, sperm tests done here in Europe locally before they go to the States.
Usually.
They would, yeah.
Yes. So there, depending on where you live, we might be able to also guide you to a fertility clinic that be in the local area. So it is most common that you might have your tests done so that we can discuss them and give you suggestions if there's anything that needs to be addressed, like the things I've mentioned. And you can do your infectious disease screening, so that would include HIV, hepatitis, syphilis. All those tests can be done ahead of time, so that now when you come to Chicago, the only thing you'll do is the FDA testing, and Dr. Pagani can do your physical exam for you, and we'll do your FDA labs and freeze the sperm. Fresh sperm versus frozen, people ask, like, is it okay that the sperm is frozen? And typically, fresh sperm and frozen have the same chance of giving us success. So you'll give a sample, and then you can go home, and then we'll use those samples to create the embryos. Yes. Other questions? Yep.
Is there a cost difference between fresh or frozen embryos? Or?
No. No. Same. So it is a really good question. Today, with vitrification, our ability for the embryo to survive being frozen, you thaw them and they just kind of perk right up and hit the ground running. So your chance of getting a baby, if the embryo was frozen or fresh, is the same. They tolerate it very well. Another question is, people say, well, if I put 2, one from one partner and one from the other, putting 2 would increase the success rate, the chance of even getting pregnant. The answer is yes, you will increase the chance slightly that you would get a pregnancy, and the chance that it would be 2 babies is about 50-50. So even though you put 2 in, you might get 2 out, but you might not. You could put 1 embryo, and it also can split into twins. So identical twinning occurs in nature at a rate of about 1 in 250, but with IVF, it occurs at a rate of 1% up to 5%. Yeah, so you could get a 2-for-1. Yes. Other questions? Yes, sir. 2 minutes. Tick-tock. Other questions for me? Yes, sir.
What would the PGT test show exactly?
Excellent question. So as humans, we all have little pieces of DNA that we got from our mom and dad, and they're called chromosomes. So the egg will give 23 pieces of DNA, 23 chromosomes. The sperm will give 23 to make 46. The last 2 are the sex chromosomes. XX would make female, XY could make male. So you can know that the baby embryo has the right amount of chromosomes. Down syndrome, for example, is extra chromosomes or missing. You can also detect broken chromosomes if it's broken. And third, you can know sex if you wish, if you would like to be surprised. Some people say, just don't tell us, we'll be surprised later on what it is. Others have a preference to say, we would like to transfer the girl first or the boy or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir?
And do you only do chromosome-based thing, or can you do whole sequencing?
You can. You can do even more in-depth DNA looking, which would categorize PGT-A is typically just chromosomes and looking for broken or missing pieces. And you can do other conditions, diseases, especially if you have a mutation that you carry that you want to weed out from the embryos. And there's very in-depth, like you're saying, for evaluation, even sequencing of the genome. Yeah? How are we doing back there? 1 more minute. Other questions? Yeah?
In terms of the kind of larger tests for genome testing of the embryo, would that be a large additional cost?
It's a great question. Typically it's not done unless there's a disease you're actually looking for, and there is additional cost for doing the testing for a disease. Let's just say, for example, someone in their family has BRCA, which causes breast cancer, and it's in the family. You could identify that in your embryo, and that would require a further analysis, and there is additional cost when the PGT lab does that test for us.
Would it be advanced enough to maybe find if there was a history of heart condition in the family? Would it be advanced enough to be able to find something like that?
Very good question. I am sure that is on the horizon. Today, unless there's a disease, specifically a piece of DNA that's broken that we know, which, as you guys know, is a mutation, if we know the mutation, that piece, you can identify it in an embryo. All right? My pleasure. Thank you. Best of luck. Thank you.